Oh, there we go. All right. You had to test it out. Make sure. Okay. Hey, how many people are on Zoom?
I am.
Okay. 23.
It looked like it's about 25, Moreh.
5 more.
Mhm. Somebody see how many is on YouTube or about to come on YouTube. There's a reason for these numbers. Okay. I did remember we had homework today, right? I'm just counting to see how many people was here. I mean, people, you know. Uh-huh. Well, shalom, everyone. Do we remember what we talked about last month? Anybody want to answer? It's a whole bunch of people talking. I don't hear nobody.
Can Moreh have my hand raised?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Last week's question was in
No,
reference to passive aggressive trait.
no. What did we talk about last month? I know about the questions. What did we talk about last month?
We talked about
Mm.
anger.
That was the last thing we talked about?
No.
Anybody else remember? It wasn't that long ago, was it? Hmm? Oh, man. We talked about passive aggression, right? We talked about 3 different types, all right? You had your passive aggressive. What are the other 2? You had your open, and what's the last one? The good one? Assertive, right? Okay. Don't worry, we're gonna have to go over it again, I see. It's all right. Uh-huh. Okay. Didn't remember the name. It's all right. All right. Let's get going. Yes, we do have rules. Yeah. Sorry, dog. We gotta have rules. Please keep your mic muted, except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak. There is a feature on Zoom in the meeting room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. All questions must be on the topic. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. These rules are due to time and the recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings. We must give the Moreh enough time to complete the lesson. This will be mixed with discussions to help build one another. Please do not abuse time. All right. So as always, we're going to go through a quick little review, and I'm always going to put. What was that? No, that is not part of the presentation. Yeah. No. I'm always going to add this when we talk about emotions because that's what most of this is based off of is your feeling, your reaction, or your response to something, right? So your emotions are natural, instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others, okay? And then we talked about the inclination, right? A person's natural tendency or urge to act or feel in a particular way, right? A disposition or propensity.
So with the emotions, are you saying that emotions are good,
Mm-hmm.
but when they're not good is when it's hitting those opposite points?
When it gets you the opposite, it's going to turn into coldness and indifference. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Same thing for inclination, you know. It's going to turn into the opposite with aversion and disinclination, right? This is our review, right? We should all know this by now, right? Okay. All right. We are supposed to delight in doing the will of the Father. We talked about this, right? Do good, O Yahuah, to those who are good and to those who are upright in their hearts, right? Anybody remember what the Hebrew word for upright was? Oh, somebody was paying attention. All right, yeah, sure, all right. And we said that figuratively is what is right, what ought to be done, that which is just and me, right? All right. You know, we got Deuteronomy 6 and 5. You shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might or strength. Right? Whatever Bible you read. Then we knew about the heart is deceitful and wicked. Right? Jeremiah 17 and 9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Right? And we talked about apostasy, right? The abandonment or renunciation of a religious or political belief. And again, we wanted to focus on faithlessness, right? And defection. Right? And then we talked about unbelief, which was the lack of faith and trust in Elohim that challenges his truthfulness and finds expression in disobedience and rebellion. We did a couple of little sample stories about that, remember? And this failure of to trust Elohim holds back his blessings and leads to condemnation and spiritual death. We went over that in the first couple of lessons we did on distractions. So I see we're gonna have to go back to just a little bit. Psalm 78, 21 and 22. Therefore, when Yahuah heard, he was full of wrath. A fire was kindled against Yaakov. Remember, we talked about what it means to kindle a fire, right? All right. His anger rose against Israel because they did not believe in Elohim and did not trust his saving power. All right. All review. This is all review. This is where we started off the last lesson last month. All right. Human anger. Human anger arises for a number of reasons, some of which are acceptable and others which are not. Scripture stresses the potentially destructive aspects of human anger and urges moderation. We talked about what anger was, right? It's a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility, right? And we just focused on what the opposite was, which was pleasure and good humor. Now, the verb of that was to feel someone with anger or to provoke in anger. But all of the similarities were the same, right? Being annoyed, be irate, you know, you irk somebody or you vex them. All that was the same, right? Well, what is that word? Pique, remember? Yeah, pique was feeling irritated or resentful. But again, you see the similarity follows what anger and what the verb is, right? You being irate, you annoyed, you're bothered, you're vexed, somebody's provoking you, right? And then we went into what were the three types of anger that we looked at, right? So here are three types of anger which help shape how we react in a situation that makes us angry. These are passive aggression, open aggression, and assertive anger. If you are angry, the best approach would be assertive anger. Right? We might talk about that a little later in the lessons, maybe. Passive aggressive behavior is a pattern of indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them. Now, keep this in mind throughout this lesson. There is a disconnect between what a passive aggressive person says and what he or she does. You say one thing and do another, thus making it hard for people to gauge you, which in turn sends the wrong message about you and what you are about. Other examples of passive aggressive behavior might include avoiding direct or clear communication, evading problems, fear of intimacy or competition, making excuses, blaming others, obstructiveness, playing the victim. Don't nobody do that. Feigning compliance with requests, sarcasm. You start. Nah. Now I know one good sarcasm. That brother is the king of sarcasm right there. Backhanded compliments and hiding anger. All right. Let me ask the question, why are people passive aggressive? People may act like this because they fear losing control or insecure or lack self-esteem. They might do it to cope with stress, anxiety, depression, or insecurity, or to deal with rejection or conflict. Alternatively, they might do it because they have a grudge against a colleague or feel underappreciated. Mhm. It got real quiet when we started talking about that last time. Yeah. No. Fear also plays a big role, right? Typically, one of the primary emotions, like fear or sadness, can be found underneath the anger. Fear includes things like anxiety and worry, and sadness comes from the experience of loss, disappointment, or discouragement. Now, on the other hand, many people have a tendency to lash out in anger and rage, becoming physically or verbally aggressive, and can oftentimes hurt themselves or others. This is called open aggression. This comes out in fighting, bullying, blackmailing, accusing, shouting, bickering, sarcasm, and criticism. All right. The one that everybody should strive to do if you have to be angry is assertive anger. The healthy way to deal with anger is by being controlled and confident, talking and listening, and open to help in dealing with the situation. This assertive anger can help relationships to grow. It means thinking before you speak, being confident in how you say it, yet open and flexible to the other side. It means being patient, not raising your voice, communicating how you are feeling emotionally, and really trying to understand what others are feeling. When you deal with anger assertively, you demonstrate that you are mature and care about your relationships and yourself. Now, I also want you to remember this right here. Forgiveness is always important. If a person has apologized for making you angry, or if you realize that the situation isn't worth it, be open to forgive and willing to be forgiven and forgive yourself. Moreh Chanan went all through that last week. Right? This will help you to calm down and will help your relationship with others to flourish. All right? Oh my goodness. It's already started. We still on review. Hold on, let me catch up on here. All right. Then we talked about jealousy. We know that's nobody up here, huh? Yeah. Huh? Oh, I'm just asking. Huh? Now, from the Hebrew, we know that it was King Av, right? Now it meant jealousy, envy, or a zeal, right? And we also understood that this zeal could be good or bad, right? What makes the zeal good or bad? Is somebody in the back alley? He's on his way. Yeah, he got it. That's my boot.
Attitude.
Yeah, attitude. Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else? What about man versus the father? Mhm. Proverbs 6:34. For jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. So that would be the bad side of zeal, right? Okay. Deuteronomy 32:35. And this is from the Targums. Vengeance is before me, and I will repay at the time that they go up from their land, for the day of their defeat is near, and the hurrying of what will be for them. Is that better than the man's zeal?
God's will is always better.
Huh? It's always going to be better, right? So that's the difference between what a man wants to do. A man wants to take revenge, but you know you're not supposed to do it because vengeance is supposed to be the father's, right? Okay. This review. Y'all can. Okay. Oh, okay.
Remember how they felt last time.
Is that what it was? Pride. No one has pride in here.
What?
Nobody. It's a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. We see all the similarities here, but we focused last time on sense of achievement because it's from yourself, right? That's what helps you puff up, right? So then when it comes to the Hebrew, we see that how it can puff you up. It means height or enemies, pride or presumption. What is that word? Oh my goodness. Yeah, ga'on. Okay, all right. I guess he can do that. It's just review. Then the results of human anger, human anger can cause strife, mhm, which is anger or bitter disagreement over fundamental issues or conflict. And what we focused on was quarreling, wrangling, or bickering, which is all the opposite of being in harmony or peace or cooperation with one another. Right? Hebrew word is madon, right? It means a contest or quarrel, brawling, or contention or contentious discord. Right? Now, this strife and dissension is a verbal quarrel, which is the source or object of said contention. Okay? These are all the things that could make you angry. These are all the things that these different winds that, or these rules that we talked about in the earlier lessons can blow in and out of you and make you do these things, right? So we're trying to figure out and identify what these situations are so we can overcome them. All right. Now we can get started. Passive aggression, all right, is a person who appears to comply with a request, but actually resists in subtle ways. The resistance can range from pouting to delayed vindictiveness. Yes, it can. Now, what does it mean to be vindictive?
It's that get back.
Mhm.
You know, I know you want to start at XYZ, but I'm
Mhm.
going to delay this. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I sure was. It's my fault.
Mhm.
But, I did that on purpose. I'm sorry, but I'm not.
Having or showing a strong or unreasoning desire for revenge, right? Now, we talked about this a couple of lessons ago, being malicious, malevolent, malignant, malign, right? It's being evil for no reason, right? And we will see some of this in a few. All right. Now, we all exhibit passive aggressive behaviors at some point, usually as children when it was not safe to openly rebel. However, as we mature, we should be learning healthier behaviors such as setting boundaries and expressing disagreements more openly. Now, the Bible does not use the term passive aggression. We talked about that in the last lesson, but it does give us character sketches of people who exhibit passive aggressive traits and the results of that behavior. And we also talked about that last lesson. All right. So we are going to start with King David's son Absalom, right? And an example of passive aggression. Let's get a little bit of a backstory before we actually get to what he did that was considered passive aggression. All right. So starting in 2 Samuel 14:28-33. So Absalom lived through 2 full years in Jerusalem without coming into the king's presence. Then Absalom sent for Yoab to send him to the king, but Yoab would not come to him. And he sent a second time, but Yoab would not come. Then he said to his servant, see, Yoab's field in the next field is next to mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. So Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Just a little bit. Then Yoab arose and went to Absalom at his house and said to him, why have your servant set my field on fire? And Absalom said, answer Yoab, behold, I sent word to you. Come here that I may send you to the king to ask, why have I come here from Jeshurun? It will be better for me to be there still. Now, therefore, let me go into the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death. Now, this sounds a little bit like open aggression, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Yeah. So, and we'll see a little bit of that later. So, then Joab went to the king and told him, and he summoned Absalom. So he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. That is just a little backstory of what we got going on, right? All right. So what did Absalom do? Absalom's conspiracy. All right. This is 2 Samuel 15:1-6. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call to him and say, "From what city are you?" And when he said, "Your servant is of such and such a tribe in Israel," Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but there is no man designated by the king to hear you." Then Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were a judge in the land. Then every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice." And whenever a man came near to pay homage to him, he would put out his hand and take hold of it and kiss it. No, I don't think he did it. No. As Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. You got a question?
I don't know if it's a mic question, and that's more like an in-house question.
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody know what happened? Why Absalom is acting this way?
Well, I was going to
Okay.
give them the address. But does anybody know why was Absalom and his father feuding? I mean, okay. Yeah, you can't tell me why?
See, Moreh,
Go ahead.
because he wanted to be king. He wanted everyone to admire him.
Okay. All
Well,
right. Anybody
Hard
else?
story.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he did. Yeah.
Huh? Go ahead.
Let me get my thoughts.
It's okay. Go ahead. Get them together.
Absalom was he always wanted what his father had, but at this time he did something with his sister.
Was it Absalom or was it somebody else that did something? with his sister?
Absalom? No, it was Absalom. No,
Mhm.
just it was Absalom's sister,
Mhm.
which got
Mhm.
raped or whatever. He wanted to buy his stepbrother, which is David's son. So he was very angry with his father because he did nothing to him.
There
He
you go.
wanted punishment.
All right. There we go. If you want to read that, that's in 2 Samuel 13:23-38. Okay. That's what I was looking for. All right. So who is this right here? All right. No. So let's be going to the next one here. Again, I want you to remember your emotions, okay, before we read this next one. Look for the feeling, the reaction, and the response, okay? So the next one that we're going to read is King Ahab, all right, of Israel, who demonstrated passive-aggressive behavior when he coveted the vineyard of a neighbor and was denied its purchase. You remember this story. 1 Kings 21:1-4. Now, the Baal Yezerah had a vineyard in Israel beside,
He's in the back.
it's in the Baal.
Oh.
That's what it say, right? The Baal? No. I mean, with the box here, beside the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. Right? After this, Ahab said to Naboth, "Give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is near my house. And I will give you a better vineyard for it, or if it seems good to you, I will give you its value in money." But Naboth said to Ahab, "Yahuah forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers." And Ahab went into his house vexed and sullen because of what Naboth the Jezreel had said to him. For he had said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers." And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and wouldn't eat no food. So y'all remember what we said about that, right? A passive-aggressive person is one who appears to comply with requests, but actually resists in subtle ways. The resistance can range from pouting to delayed vindictiveness. You got a question?
Who's that? What was that?
It's that back alley, boy. They must having a party back
Oh,
there.
it's on his way.
I'm gonna bring my, Can't, he said I need to move so I can see it in my head. Wasn't, Ahab was Jezebel, what's her name? Jezebel husband, right?
Yeesh. Mhm.
Ish.
Mhm.
Well, most likely he mainly went to her and talked about this man, about what he wouldn't do.
Oh yeah.
He wanted it, he had to have it,
Mhm.
and he just went all out of whack.
Mhm. Well, let's read about it.
Mhm.
Well, we're gonna read the aftermath of it. What is the story? What happened when he didn't get what he wanted? What happened?
His wife,
Mhm.
Ish, went,
Isha.
and Isha went and did it for him. He had the man accused.
Mhm.
She brought him, he was brought forward, and they literally killed the man and took the land.
Mhm. So let's read the aftermath of that. 1 Kings 21:17-24. Then the word of Yahuah came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, who is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has come to take possession. And you shall say to him, Thus says Yahuah, have you killed and also taken possession? And you shall say to him, Thus says Yahuah, in the place where dogs lick up the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick your own blood. Ahab said to Elijah, have you found me, O my enemy? He answered, I have found you, because you have sold yourself to do what is evil in the sight of Yahuah. Behold, I will bring disaster upon you. I will utterly burn you up and will cut off from Ahab every male, bond or free, in Israel. And I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of who now? Okay. And like the house of Asa, the son of Ahiah, for the anger or kaas, which is the vexation or anger or indignation or provocation to which you have provoked me, and because you have made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel, Yahuah also said, the dog shall eat Jezebel within the walls of Jezreel. Anyone belonging to Ahab who dies in the city, the dog shall eat. And anyone of his who dies in the open country, the birds of the heavens shall eat. So it was Ahab's passive aggressive behavior that had begun a disastrous chain of events. You have something to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be related to Ahab at this point. Can you imagine? You didn't have anything to do with it, but because of his position,
Mhm.
so that's why in leadership you got to be careful, because in everything, if you mess up, everything connected to you
It will trickle down.
is in trouble. He said, anybody, his whole house, any male, they're gonna be cut off, bond or free. It's dangerous. Anything connected to you gonna be eaten by the dogs. It wasn't just her.
One of the problems of being the head of the household, right? It all goes through you. Any other questions? Are we good so far? Did we see where the passive aggressive behavior came from? Mhm. All right. So if you go back to the wife did? Yeah. Yeah, well, he went to her crying. All right. Social media. Social media has turned passive aggression into an art form. We all know what it means when we are unfriended, unfollowed, or blocked. Some find it easier to vent their frustrations on social media than have a private conversation with someone who has offended them. The internet and the proliferation of smartphones have created dozens of ways for passive aggressive people to exact revenge from behind the relatively safety of a screen or a keyboard. We call them keyboard warriors. Whether spoken, acting, or typed, passive aggressive responses are harmful and dishonest. We are pretending to be unoffended while secretly planning ways to get even. Taking public jabs at others while avoiding personal confrontation is a hallmark of passive-aggressive behavior. For many young people, it is also a new norm made possible by social media. Passive aggression, a deliberate but masked way of expressing feelings or anger, is carried out online through such actions as posting embarrassing photos, as well as through inaction such as failing to stop the spread of online gossip. Understand, this stuff isn't just happening in the outside world, right? It's happening in the very community that we all call each other brother and sister, right? We are our own worst enemies.
We don't block each other here.
Hey, look,
What?
they don't tell you they don't block each
Go check the voicemail.
other. One ring and done, huh? We create our own drama that tears us down every day. That's what got our ancestors in trouble in the first place, tearing each other down while listening to their own selves instead of the Father. Same thing we're doing today. The only difference is that we can put all this mess on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube.
Air it out. Let air that thing out.
Passive-aggressive behavior is one of the nasty side effects of a society plugged in, because we spend so much time talking through our hard code devices, we forget how to really talk to one another. And that can lead to anger and avoidance that manifests in some troublesome ways. Overcoming our passive-aggressive tendencies takes time, and it takes cultivation of a certain awareness. That's the reason why we're doing all these lessons and why we stopped at this place when it comes to passive-aggressive, okay? It can be done, however, with some understanding and willingness to shut things down when they go wrong. I'll give you an example. When someone on Facebook or Instagram posts a scripture out of context, and you or someone else steps in behind them and makes a post and says something like this: clearly someone didn't read verse such and such carefully, because there's no way they would have come to that conclusion if it was in the right context. Y'all don't do that here, huh?
I didn't know that was considered passive aggressive.
Read.
Somebody did a display that a little while ago. Well, go ahead.
What if I didn't say anything at all? I just kept going.
So the first thing is confession.
I mean, yeah, you still passive aggressive.
Didn't say anything?
No, he just kept.
I mean, I don't know if I got upset or not. I just kept going.
You weren't sure? Now, how long ago was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
That's
often
passive
or
aggression because they don't remember. Passive aggression, you forget.
Right, you
something.
forget everything. You that angry.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I don't know if I got angry. I don't know if I got annoyed. I just
Yeah.
kept going. Just
You was
kept-
peaked.
I just like it's like I looked at the comments, and I kept going. Yeah.
I mean, but if it's not really something that you need to react to, that's not passive aggressive.
But should I react to it?
Mhm. Yeah. Remember the emotion,
Right, it's just how
your
you
feeling,
react.
your reaction, or your response to a certain situation, which can, like he said, can be good or bad. Right. So your willingness to not engage in that's not passive aggression.
If your desire is to win that person over, to help, whatever that is, then you have the right perspective. But if you just at that moment you feel something that's not a good feeling, you might want to,
Yeah.
slow it down a little bit.
And somebody else give me
So if I
another.
feel hot and boiled up, I should just walk away.
You can now what you can do is you can journal. You can get your audio. You can talk. Can't believe. Do all that on your journaling stuff. Just don't put out.
I'm sorry, I would not know about either one of those, Facebook or Instagram or what they call, or what.
Well, someone knows. Someone
Okay,
give me
well,
another example.
I got plenty of examples because
Uh-oh.
'cause just in case y'all.
It's confession time.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not a keyboard warrior, but I've been blocked, unfriended by at least over 200-300 people. So yeah, that's. So I'm just saying, by the time I want to say up until about a couple of months ago, I got to the point where I just started just unblocking and unfriending people, but it was a little different for me. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, this seems to be kind of a balance between passive aggressive and open aggression, because I would say straight up, If you don't stop this, I'm gonna block you. Well, you can't tell me. I'll just block him. I wouldn't say anything after that.
Well, that's passive. That's not open. Open are you being sarcastic or the criticism that's coming behind you?
No, I would say if you don't stop, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. I posted this because I want to post this. If you got a problem with it, you can get out here. You say something else, I'm gonna block you. They say something else, I just block you.
Well, that's a little bit of open, yeah.
Okay.
Open, assertive. He going the full rainbow on that one.
That's what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know, or like I was telling some people the other day, I got used to people coming on my, hey, I'm a Bitcoin such and such, and they know I'm into Bitcoin. As soon as I saw, I just blocked them. I wouldn't even accept the friendship or nothing. So I'm looking, I'm like, it kind of seems like a balance here.
Yeah, well, there are things where if you block somebody, you don't have to have any type of aggression. You just don't want to deal with something. That's a little bit different than what he's sharing here is dealing with the feelings. If you got feelings involved, emotions involved, and then you do it because of that, that would be the issue.
Can't hear you.
You mostly see it around when brothers may post something about the Akiots, or sometimes the Akiots post something about the Akim, where they feel that men should be, or the way women should be. Then a whole conversation ensues and people get real heated, and then all of a sudden they start saying colorful things.
I love you.
No, I love you. Yeah, your emotions, your feeling or your reaction to something. Go ahead. Google thing.
Okay, I got it. I actually have a real example.
Okay.
All right, hold on.
In the cussing,
See, I found it on my
on his page.
my social media.
Yeah. Yeah. Take out the words now. Take out some of them words.
Paraphrase some of it.
Mm-hmm. You gotta edit it too, don't you?
Right now,
Okay, so someone was speaking on Facebook and they used Enoch or Hanuk 89:18.
Mhm.
And then it just kept going. So before they actually said anything, I went to it myself and I read it. And from what Hanuk Enoch 89, and then you go to 18 and just keep reading. So it talks about, from what I received from it, it was talking about from Noah to all the way to Yashar being in captivity in Mitzrayim, but it used everyone as animals. So that's what I got from it. So the person said something about, oh yeah, that's us coming out of the church. And so at first I was like, that's not it. That's not it. That's not
Oh,
it.
I would have got on that one.
That's not it.
Oh,
That's not it. That's not it.
my mic is on. My bad.
That's not it. So I said, this is my response. I
Mhm.
said, Aki, I highly encourage you and anyone who else is listening to this, first and foremost, ask Yahuah for his understanding, his truth. Start reading at Exodus 1, then read Canuck or Enoch 89:18 until. And so then he said, I feel like you can explain it better. Let me hear it. I said, you're going to have to call me, Aki. I said, if you have a messenger, give me a call or message me. I didn't hear a response back.
So you mean that could be his passive aggressive, but you?
I'm talking about for me.
Well, I
No.
said for you, that's fine. Hey, Aki, it's like I'm coming in love, and I'm willing to help explain it, but I don't want to make a display about it. So technically, you can have this conversation, call me, messenger me, then if it's received, he can go back and change his post.
Yeah, that's
But I
not
was
fair.
upset and I was boiled up.
So angry, but don't stand.
Mhm.
Slika,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
so what what Aki actually displayed was assertive anger because he was being, in control and confident in thinking before he actually did anything aggressive.
I'll agree because he thought about what he had to say before he said it.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Forgiveness. How many of us have it? Hmm? Do you have forgiveness? Huh? Leviticus 19 and 17. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. What does that mean? I know what it means. I'm asking somebody else, what does it mean? Not Moreh. Tell you the truth, he just gave an example of it. Does anybody want to tell me what it means? Go ahead, somebody in the back. No, all the way in the, now all the way in the back. I'll be up.
And that you should not be that angry with your brother or your sister. You should be able to pull them to the side and talk about it reasonably. So both of you guys have an understanding.
Mhm. Isn't that what Keena did? He reproved his brother in love, right? You shouldn't get to a point in your life where you get so angry, but you don't want to talk to that person because now both of y'all gonna start arguing. You should be able to come to that person in love and still be able to reprove them. All right. All right. Oh, I went the wrong way. All right. You see here, the Hebrew word for hate in this context is Sunday. Oh, yeah, I get you right after this, right? Means hate or be unable or unwilling to put up with, right? Which is going to cause you to make that other person the enemy and be hate. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was just gonna answer the question that you asked us first. As you bring out the scripture, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 35 and 36 says, start at 35. You shall do no unrighteous in judgment, and meet a yard and weight or in measures. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hand shall ye have. I am Yah, Yah Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. So I would say, far as like you shall not hate your brother in your heart, but just have just measures with each other.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So let's read that what it says in the Targums. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall indeed reprove your companion, that you may not receive guilt on account of him. Now, what does that mean? Yeah. Lamad number 2. It's all right. But you already talked it there. Go ahead. What does that mean that you may not receive guilt on account of him? Go ahead. Give to Nabat.
So to receive guilt on the account of him is if you had a quarrel or you were angry with him and you refuse, as the definition say, you was unwilling to put up with him. You was unwilling to at least come to the table, have a conversation in love, and like you said, try to reprove your brother.
No. Online? I think it's all you.
Okay. All right. So Leviticus 5 gives us a hint of what it is, right? So if you know that your brother's doing something out of character and breaking Torah, you have to tell them.
You got to say something.
If you heard about it and you know anything about it, and you are called to witness and you say, I'm about it because I don't want to be in it, you just encourage sin on yourself. So it's best for you not to, if you do get, and don't be so upset with your brother for whatever they did, that you can't go and reprove them and correct them, to win your brother over. That's why I said those who are spiritual, we go back to those and try to restore them so that you don't record it.
Yeah,
Go
plus,
ahead.
plus when it talks about the hate, he's also letting you know it's like even treating your brother lightly, to lightly treat him like, I'll let him sin. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Even if you know that it's wrong,
Looking the other way.
you're just gonna turn your head to left to right, or it'll work itself out, or
Mhm.
someone else will do, or I know this person, so this person we're gonna be arguing. And if I tell this person, I'm gonna leave it alone. However, this person is wrong.
And now what happens? Now the
Now
blood is
you
on
bear
your
that
hands.
person's burden.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the blood is on your hands now.
Yep.
But
And they should, but off the delivery is also the key. Now I'm not, because sometimes the delivery is horrible, and then the outcome is going to be horrible.
right.
But
Nah,
if
nah.
you're a liar. But if you tell them the truth and you say, hey, I'm just doing this in love and in respect, and I'm just trying to show you what the word says, I hope you can take it or leave it. But it will be on them once they hear it and receive it, and then go from there.
Now Amana has her hand up.
Go ahead now, Amana.
Moreh. So if we don't correct, or if we don't try to show them the errors of their ways, we're just as guilty as they are if we don't do that.
Correct.
We're just as guilty. So that's basically, from what I understanding, what it's saying is that, that you don't receive guilt on account of him.
Correct.
Mhm.
Toda.
Anyone else? All right. Xavier, go ahead.
Shalom. I just got a question about that too. Should there be a disclaimer on this? Like, as far as the correction being made, should you first have an understanding of it yourself before you go out spewing some type of correction that may cause conflict?
Right. Hence the term, if you know he's wrong.
Mhm.
So if you know that person is wrong and you don't help that person by proving them or showing them, then you become wrong. But if they don't know, then you can't be held accountable for something you don't understand or you don't know.
Mhm.
And then also, if it's depend on the level of it, because we're not talking about that today, I guess. But sometimes you may need a couple of witnesses just to get that support to show that person that it's just wrong.
Yes, we're talking about the 3 witnesses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
How does this mix with not giving the pearls of swine? Is it if someone's in the walk, but you see him messing up, and some people we know in the walk, we already know on certain topics, like they're stuck. Like, even if you come at them the right way, could that be an instance where we just let them go on about their way?
Well, that's the whole 3. That's the whole, trying to work it out with them first. Then what's the next step?
Well, just to be clear though, the pearls and the swine part,
Yeah.
that's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's my fault. Yeah.
So, these are your brothers that are in the
Mhm.
walk.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be doing something correct, and they
Mhm.
find themselves in error. Your job at that point is to help them get back on track. And then as the lesson goes, it's going to show maybe some ways of helping get them
Mhm.
back on track. But we're just simply saying, but the delivery sometimes can be a little rough. And if it is like that to some people, then that's why they may not receive it. Because some people say, well, I did do that, but they didn't receive it. You got to ask yourself, well, why didn't they receive it? It could be themselves personally, right?
Well, we had the example of how he came to that brother, right? He was nice and calm, smooth. He was like, I suggest. He wasn't implying that you need to do this. So it is a certain way that you have to talk to people sometimes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Toria.
Well, hold on before Toria. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just got a quick
Yeah.
question.
So what if they don't want, what if they like, you go to them, you try to tell them, it's like, look, I don't even want to hear what you got to say. Do we even try to push the 2 or 3 witnesses, or do we just walk away from
Shake the dust off your feet.
Don't do that.
That's it connects to my question. It connects to
Mhm.
my comment or whatever it is. All right. How well do you know these people that you're communicating with?
Mm.
If you have no real relationship with them
Or connection.
I don't have no business. I don't even know you, man. I can't tell you. I don't know how you live or which I'm just spewing something on the internet. I don't know. I don't know who you are. I can disagree with you all day, but you really won't hear me. And this is a proven point. So there was a person that wrote something, one of the Morehs that I know, wrote something online. And another guy came back and he's talking against this guy, talking against what he said, as if he actually knew this person. He just was against what the person was saying, not realizing what context it's in or the background information. Anybody that knew him knows what he's talking about.
Mhm.
So when he came and was trying to reprove my brother, I had to come back at him. I said, I know him. I don't know you. And this is what I know of him. And after I gave my witness of the brother's character, the brother said, he humbled down and said, you see, you're right. I'm sorry, because I just took it out of what I thought it was saying. Because a lot of times, if you don't know somebody, you should just let that thing go. He's not talking to you. Everything on the internet is not to you. It's not to you. Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. It sounds wrong to me, but I ain't got nothing to keep it going. Because if I don't really know you, I'm not gonna say much to you. I'm like, oh, that's what you believe. Okay. Now, if I feel led by the Ruach to say something, I'll put it out there as gently as I can to see if they how to respond to it. And then if we can take it offline, then we take it offline.
Mhm.
Malachi had a question.
Me personally, I keep social media to me breed cowards. So if anybody on the internet arguing or doing stuff like that, to me, that's not a good behavior. So me personally, for my brothers, for my ox and my coach, just live it. Don't talk about it, live it.
Well, that's what we were talking about with these other lessons about your foundation, right? Because social media can be a plus or a minus, But if you're in this truth in you on social media, you should have a certain foundation in the first place to be on there, so you can know how to act. It's the young people. Yeah.
I gotta go ask somebody else. Get that answer. Oh, you
Nah,
might
man.
come back.
Go ahead, Nadama.
So basically, when we're on any kind of social media, we have to show discernment in what type of conversations that we engage in.
Yeah, but it's just not social media. It's life, period.
Well, it's life. I'm just saying specifically we were talking about social
Yeah.
media, but in all walks of life and anything that we're dealing with people, with people, we have to show some type of discernment in people that we're dealing with, and definitely, when situations get heated or what have you, to exercise being assertive anger. Even though people do make us angry and upset, we have to be, controlled and confident, and definitely think before we're speaking, because once we say something, that's it.
Mhm.
Can either build up or tear down.
But look at how that passive aggressive trait can expose you too. Remember, we always talking about the inner man versus the outer man. You go around, you just the perfect little angel, right? Until you get on that social media and somebody make you mad. And you're the type of stuff you ain't got no business typing. But then you get caught because somebody gonna know your username. Somebody gonna know how you act for real when somebody gets you upset, right? So you get exposed that way too. So you should always be practicing within a certain foundation, no matter if it's on social media or if it's in real life. All right, good stuff. Any other questions before we move on? 1 John 2:9. Whoever says he is in the light and hates his brother is still in darkness. And this is miseo, is hatred, to detest, or especially to persecute his brother is still in darkness. So like we were just talking about, you can become passive aggressive and hold stuff in to the point where it can create hatred. But you got to remember, we are commanded to what? As a commandment to forgive, right? So you can't have this, oh, you know what? I ain't even gonna deal with them. Because that's not dealing with a person that's gonna turn into something that you got to deal with. Mhm. It's starting to get quiet in here again. I don't know. They can't relate. 1 John 2:19. All right. So then, whoever loves his brother abides in the light, and in him there is no cause stumbling. So what does that mean? Huh? It's not a trick question. It's
It's in the light.
we got somebody back here.
It's in the light.
If you're in the light and you're doing righteousness, you shouldn't stumble. Neither one of you guys should stumble.
We'll go back up to the first one. If you're in the light, then you're not doing anything to hate, detest, or persecute someone, right?
So the light, so just to be clear, the light is the word,
The
right?
word,
Everyone understand
mhm.
what the light is. So if they're within, if they're in the light, doing what the light says, which is the word of Elohim, then sure, they're not going to detest. You know, they're going to be able to reprove because that's what the light tells you to do.
You're doing what's right according to Torah.
But we can dull the light by our actions. So, I mean, we can beat someone down with the word. So the word says this, but then the way we bring it out, we can make the Father's word not penetrate them the way it's supposed to because of our words.
Anybody else? All right, let's keep going. All right, if your brother sins against you, thank you, Captain Obvious. Matthew 18, 15 to 17. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. So if a matter can be settled without getting others involved, that would keep rumors down, misunderstandings from multiplying. It would keep conflict from spreading, right? And we know something like this because Proverbs 25:9. Argue your case with your neighbor himself and do not reveal another's secret. Proverbs 11:13. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is put me on front. Huh? Put me on blast, on notice, you know what I'm saying? Put all my business in the street, right up front. I might have heard you if you said it, but you loud cat me.
Came to me
across the room.
Right.
You know that got pork in it? You still eating it?
But I didn't know. I didn't know.
I got everybody looking at me.
Oh,
Now I'm upset.
he like eating pork.
Like tearing that pork up.
He's still chewing it. I see it.
I didn't know that. He could have came to me and said, "Oh, you know they got pork in it." Oh, I didn't know that, man. Thank you.
But the ultimate objection is restoration, right, of the offending brother or sister. So there is a certain way you are supposed to come to somebody. All right. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. This is where we're gonna get to. Can somebody give me what is that law? The 2 or 3 witnesses. Is it a Torah? Huh? Yeah. Okay. Anybody got an address?
He's going to it right now.
Oh, he going to it right now? Okay. When he get there. Huh? 1915. All right. You got it, Malcolm?
I was that Deuteronomy 19.
A single witness shall not suffice against a person from any crime or for any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses, of the testimony or what testifies, or of 3 witnesses shall a charge be established. All right?
All right, just so we clear it
yeah,
also is
yeah.
sometimes people think about everything got to go and get 2 or 3 witnesses. This is specifically talking about a what? A matter that needs to be
A certain
established,
matter.
right? Because if you're not careful, you can find in relationships and in marriages, let's go over here to the Moreh. Everything is going over there, and you kind of pull the ish out of the equation,
Authority out.
because you think you can just go over him through the leadership, that's a no-go.
Mhm.
Okay.
In Deuteronomy 17:67, on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses, the one who is to die shall be put to death. The person shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hand of the witness shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Now, to what Moreh Chanan was saying, you want to make sure you know what you're talking about when you're being a witness, right? You got
Yeah. You see me sneaking out of somebody's house.
Well, this is like a built-in provision. If you can't just go and say you're gonna be somebody's witness and lie, right? You can, but it's gotta be some punishment behind it. Okay. Yeah.
Like all them signing on them ketubas, all them
Right.
witnesses on them
All the
ketubas.
witnesses on there, yeah.
Yeah, talk to them. You can't lie to them. Make the right witness.
Oh my goodness. All right, 17. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the assembly. And if he refuses to listen even to the assembly, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Does that answer your question? If you, what's so bad about the tax collector? Oh my goodness.
I don't want to take it off topic.
Yeah, don't. Just keep going. Mm-mm. All right. Keep going. Yeah. All right, the definition of forgiveness here we have shalach. All right, it's a root to forgive. Salah. Who said kalak? Somebody said kalak. You gotta read how they break it down. All right. Then in the Greek is a fear me. All right, leave, forgive, or let loose. Okay. Then we have unwavering. All right, it's a steady or resolute, non-wavering. Right. All this is the opposite of wavering or being unsteady. Keep that in mind. And the Greek of that, anybody want, aklinas, right? Not leaning, i.e., figuratively, to be firm without wavering. Right? Got everybody in here, right? Y'all stand firm on your foundation, right? It's like 4 heads that nodded. I don't know what's going on. Only 4. Ooh, my goodness, boy. These lessons ain't supposed to be like that. All right. Now we all know about being steadfast, right? Resolution, dutifully firm and unwavering. Again, right? Being loyal, faithful. Anybody remember what the Hebrew word for that was? I did it like 6 or 7 lessons in a row. Oh boy. It's okay. That's it. Again, displaying loyalty or joint obligation. But look at this here. It's an unfailing love, unfailing kind of love, kindness or goodness, often used as a use of Elohim's love that is related to faithfulness to his covenant. Keep that in mind. All right. So keep this in mind. The unwavering, unfailing kind of love is what we want from the Father, right? Okay. All right. Matthew 6:12-15. And forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also do what? But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father do what? Okay, but it's that unwavering, unfailing love that you want, right? Okay. That's what you say you want. Matthew 18:21-23. Then Kepha or Peter came to him and said, Master, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? And Yahuah said to him, I did not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Because of this, the reign of the heavens is like a certain man, a sovereign who wished to settle accounts with his servant. What does that mean to you? I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. It says a lot. Mm-hmm. Anybody? Somebody got caught in the head? No. Go ahead.
So I say, when people look at it, they're looking like 70 times 7. They're counting 7, 7. That's
Mhm.
not what it's saying. It's an idiom
Mhm.
of completeness.
Right.
You got to completely forgive them. Okay. Why? Because as it says right there, he's gonna settle the account. That's how when something's complete or if you let it go, it's done. There's no need to bring it back.
Why are you counting?
This is done. It's like
Mhm.
paying a debt. Once you pay your debt off,
That's
you
it.
don't have to keep calling that same company.
Right.
It's done. And he wants you to be the same way with your brothers and your sisters.
You know how some of y'all arguments start. How many times have I forgiven you?
Right here.
Uh-huh.
It's 488.
What you talking about? Oh, anybody else? The point is you can't keep account of forgiveness. If it's done, it's done, right? Ain't no need to keep it going.
And just to be clear, you have to make sure that they understand it's done. No one should be guessing it's
Mhm.
done, right? Meaning you gave your peace of mind, the other person gave their peace of mind, and in your mind it's done. The other person still could be holding.
I'm gonna go about this next week.
Okay, I'll stop there.
Mm-hmm. No. I'm talking about somebody else gonna be thinking, well, I'm gonna continue this on next week.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You need a mic?
No, I'm just saying, at the end of it, you guys say, are we good? Are we settled? And we
Mhm.
are. Let's go break bread and open a bottle of wine and rejoice before Yahuah.
I like wine.
But if we're not settled, you got to figure out why you're not settled.
I still like wine.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you're wanting to move forward with each other, whatever that may be, you got to make sure it is settled, it is complete.
Done.
It is finished.
Mm-hmm. All right. Luke 17:3-4. Now we're just getting into some more examples of forgiveness here, all right? Pay attention to yourselves, or prosecco, which means to keep on the outlook for, to be alert for, to be on one's guard against. If your brother sins, rebuke him or reprove him, right? Epitomeo, reprove him, warn in terms of someone's behavior. And if he repents, do what? And if he sins against you 7 times in the day and turns to you 7 times saying, I repent, what should you do?
Not forgive them. You must
That's
forgive them.
that's that commandment again, right? I didn't say it.
But I'm still hurt.
Hey, listen. If he is sincerely repenting to you, you have to do what?
Forgive. So the question may be, which it could be a legitimate question, because we see it says how plain this is. Someone does something, but the question may be is, but suppose even though he's asked for forgiveness, I might need some time to fully let that thing go. In other words, I want to forgive him, but this person put such an injury, it cut me so deep that it couldn't be just plain. They come a day later, I'm sorry. And that cut was like, oh, you are great, right? No, they could be like, okay, but they still should recognize how hurt they are. But then it's left to that person to come back and say, I forgive you, right? Don't just assume that it's done. That's what I'm saying. You got to make sure that it's clear. Okay?
It's very hard, right? Mark 11:25, and whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also, who is in heaven, may forgive you your trespass. Right? Luke 6:37, judge not and you will not be judged. Condemn not and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be given. All right, hand up. Lance, go ahead.
On that part about is suppose a person is doing the same thing over and over and over and still coming back and saying, please forgive me. I mean, they repeating the same
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's like, okay, they do something wrong,
Mhm.
come back and forgive you. Okay, you take time, you say, okay, I forgive you. They repeat the same thing and they continue to go do that. What would you do then?
Okay, the question would be first, probably with that question, it can be answered, but just really fast. The person that's doing it over and over again, is that person in the walk? And I ask that only because if they're not in the walk, then they will keep doing it over and over and
Mhm.
over again. But if they're in the walk, they understand what the definition of forgiveness is and the law behind it. So the question for you is, before we can really answer, is that person that's doing it over and over again, are they in the walk and understand what it means in the walk?
Okay, I haven't thought of it like that, but suppose they are in the walk.
So if they're in the walk, then you can go to the scriptures to remind them what the scripture says, because they're going to walk in the light too. That's their desire. So what does the light say? What does the word of Elohim say? So now they have to make a sacrifice, meaning in their heart, in their minds, that I'm going to, drop this thing, the fleshly portion of this, because why? I'm trying to be obedient to his word. I'm trying to show them, if you love me, you keep my commandments. I believe in that, and I want to have fellowship with my brother or with my sister. Then you allow the word of the Most High, or the light, to be for them or against them.
Remember, it has to be sincere repentance, right? Go ahead.
Toda.
Can't hear you. Say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sleek guy. I apologize for not using the mic. I won't do that. I try not to, at least, not on purpose. But what if I have a special needs, like I have a learning disability? I grasp things very slowly. You break it down for me? I keep doing something, and I'm saying I'm sorry, but I really don't know what I'm sorry about.
Slika, this is Moreh Daoud, and I'd like to address that question.
Please.
Because even to the brother Aki that just asked this question, as we listen to these lessons, we have to understand, as this plays out in real time, it takes to have some patience, because it has to become practical. This is why the idiom was saying seven times 70. We have to represent a great deal of patience, and if we love our brother or our sister like we say we love the Most High, we have to love them in their entirety, and that includes their faults until their faults are corrected. So it's going to take some time in real time. Hearing it in lesson time is applicable, but when you go to really apply it, it takes time. And it should take as much time as it needs, but you got to continue to do what you need to do as the righteous one, unless you have to just shake the dust off your feet and leave the whole situation alone.
All right. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I wanted to apologize to the Morehs if that sounded aggressive.
Yeah, that little passive right there. I wasn't
I
gonna say
forgive you.
nothing,
I forgive you. I didn't take it
Nah,
away. I didn't take it away at all. That's my sister talking to me. Yeah.
That's passive.
Well, see, I know.
That's that sarcasm
I know
right there.
her. I understand.
He's the model. See, he's the model. Yeah.
Well, hold on. I want to address
Uh-oh.
Moreh.
Yeah.
Dawood said that was very correct.
Mhm.
Right. We always talk about the strong bear the infirmities of the weak.
Mhm.
That's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? How mature are you? You'll find out when the situation arises. You'll find out that I'm not very mature at all, because I can't take this person to the corner, versus someone that can say, oh, don't worry about it. That's just the way they are right now. Give them some time, they'll develop. They don't mean nothing by it. They don't mean no harm. They're trying to get there, and just understand that you wasn't always where you were.
Right. We all got to grow sometime. Yeah, we should. Ephesians 4:32. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as Elohim and Mashiach forgave you.
Nah, mine has her hand up.
Go ahead, Nahum.
Moreh,
Not tender-eyed. Go
um,
ahead.
and this is why patience is a virtue, because this is something that we have to learn, and it takes time. Often with people, um, people have to learn certain things in life. Certain people don't learn, certain things, or there's people that are, a little immature for their age. That takes time for them to be mature, like in like anything else in life. That's where our maturity comes in, and our virtue comes in. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. We got you. Hold on. You gonna say something? Oh. Oh, y'all don't quit. Colossians 3:13, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against one another, forgiving each other as Yahuah has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. Huh? Yeah, that's that commandment again. I put it on top too, didn't I? Okay, I'm just making sure everybody saw it. All right, so remember what I said earlier, right? Forgiveness is always important. If a person has apologized for making you angry, or if you realize that the situation isn't worth it, be open to forgive and willing to be forgiven and forgive yourself. This will help you to calm down. It will help your relationships with others to flourish. Yeah. You have to have a want to do it. That's correct. All right. Question time. Homework time. Passive aggressive traits are often so well concealed that we are not even aware of them. We can identify behaviors that may suggest we are being passive aggressive by asking ourselves a few questions. Yes, I want you to write these questions down. Yes, they are personal. Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah. But what I want you to do is when we get down to the last question, make sure you're writing these down so you can go through this on your own to see which one you is, because you ain't gonna say which one you are on screen, All right. Did anybody do the homework? How many people on YouTube right now? Hold on now, man. How many people on YouTube? So it's like I said, it's about 60 to 100 people on the average we get from Zoom and YouTube. I said I needed at least 7 people to give me one question. Now, Amanda, you got one?
Well, Moreh, I was just answering the question that you had last week.
Okay.
And the question was like, for example, if the person strikes up a conversation but keeps checking their phone or glancing over the person's shoulder, and is like, is this a passive aggressive trait? I was like, Ken, this is excuse me, instead of voicing directly how you feel about your disagreement, you kept checking your phone or glancing over a person's shoulder. So you're expressing your negative feelings subtly through your actions instead of handling them directly.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I did. Did you have one on your own?
Yes. For example, if I'm talking to someone and they're just, kind of shifting, kind of just not looking at me in my face, and I'm talking to them, I'm having a conversation and I'm noticing, wow, this person really isn't really looking at me. I'm like, wow, okay, this person really is either irritated with me or don't want to talk to me or something's going on. And then I noticed that, I'm like, wow, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna leave right now. And they take off and leave. I'm like, wow, obviously this person has got a problem with me, but they're not gonna confront me with it.
Okay, well, that would be a trait for them, but we want to see what it does for you. So let's look at first question here that I have, and maybe someone else will come up with it. First one, do I imply guilt when someone has something I can have? For example, I love your dress, Akuti. I wish I could afford something like that, but I have to take care of my mother. Hmm?
Well, something like that, I guess it would depend on the person's intention.
Mhm.
Because some people might say something like that, like, man, I wish I could afford that, but I got to do something else. And they're not necessarily trying to
It's the
get at you.
context in it.
Yeah.
Right? No, ain't no compliment though. Anybody else have a question, something? Come on now, I know at least 7 out of 40-something people.
Well, I hope mine counted because I did answer your question.
Well,
Moreh.
you did a passive aggressive trait for the other person. We want the one about you.
Oh man.
Xavier has his hand up.
Go ahead, Xavier.
All right, I'm gonna probably jumble through this a little bit, but my question was, am I displaying passive aggressiveness when there's something that I've been asked to do and I really don't want to do it, but I agree, but the whole time I'm being negative sarcastically in a joking way?
Oh yeah, who did we read about that displayed that? That was Absalom, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, this whole lesson has been cutting me up. I'm gonna need some first aid.
All right, let's go to
Me
question
too.
2. Do I give backhanded compliments to mask my jealousy? For example, oh, your new house is nice for a starter home. That sounds like sarcasm to me. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. You need a mic? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you have somebody on YouTube. Is it a passive aggressive trait for me to see a message or hear a voicemail and take several days to return it to avoid conversation? By days past, tension is dissipated.
Mm-hmm. That's avoidance, remember? So you won't have to get in conflict. That was one of the traits.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
In my day-to-day business, I come through all sorts of people
Mhm.
because of what I do. I had an incident and I did everything but bite my lip from trying to help a person. And because the person went from one question to another question to another question when I hadn't had asked answered the first question. So it was building up, but I eventually told her, okay, let us go back to the first question.
Mhm.
And she said, I don't want to go back to the first question. I said, you didn't give me enough time to answer your first one. If I can't answer the first question, I can't help you. And she looked and said, well, if y'all had it on the line, I said, ma'am, I did tell you that we had all your questions online. I said, is it there anything else that I need to help you with? No. Bang. I said, oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah, I definitely, like I say, I can relate, but I go through that too. If my question is not answered, you can go ahead wherever you want to go. I promise you, I'm still at that first question. Right, but I'm saying for you, you're still there. But if they start coming with these other stuff, you're like,
Mhm.
look, I am not over there, nowhere, no form, no fashion, until we get this, and then we can go to the next.
Mana has her hand up.
Okay.
Kim Moreh, say for example, okay, I'm having a conversation, but with one person, and another person shows up. Now I'm having a really good conversation, and the other person is just staring at me, just glaring at me. But I'm avoiding that person. I'm completely avoiding that first person, and continue my conversation with the first person. Am I showing passive aggressive behavior?
Yeah, now that answers the question. Yeah, we can add that to the list. Yeah, you answered it.
Most definitely.
But yeah,
that
absolutely.
is passive aggressive right there.
Okay.
But that kind of goes in along with this one, right? Do I make a point to ignore or behave coldly towards someone with whom I disagreed? For example, the person strikes up a conversation, but I keep checking my phone and glancing over the person's shoulder. We already read this one, right? Let's go to the next. Number 4, do I gossip about someone rather than address that person directly? For example, brother so-and-so was confused when he did not get promoted to head deacon. But rather than confronting the pastor about it, he started rumors that the pastor didn't know how to preach.
So he's worthy.
I don't know. Hmm? But is that a display of passive aggressiveness? Hmm? Anybody else got one? Just expose yourself, right? Your heart's not in the right place. All right, let's go to number 5. Do I try to sabotage someone else's success when he or she has offended me? For example, oh, I know you're on a diet, but I couldn't resist blowing my paycheck on this cake for you. Hmm? Hmm? So not only is this being passive aggressive, because it is, but what else is it doing? Hmm? It's being a stumbling block, isn't it? Mhm. Now you know I ain't had no sugar in 2 weeks. All right. Like I did with me with alcohol. Y'all know I ain't had no wine in 2 weeks, and then it was just in my face. And,
Feast day, feast day. Remember, we focus on feast day.
and it was good. Who has a hand up? Go ahead, though.
I just want to know, is this trait of passive aggressive, is it bad to be that way, or is it something that, it's a natural defense and, finding another way of not being so controversial? Because sometimes people don't like controversy.
Answer the question.
Who made it a natural defense? Like, in other words, we could say that it's a natural defense because that's how we were raised. This is how we grew up. Our surroundings created that. Now it becomes our natural defense. Versus, let's say, like when we were all in Israel, you see how some of them are like some of the Muslims and some of the Israelis. They're a lot direct than they are over here. So much so you might look at them like they being rude or ignorant, but in their way, they're just telling you what it is. So it just depends,
It's the context, right? All right.
Well, the only reason I put the natural part in there is, thinking about the attributes of the Most High. I mean, sometimes when we read through scriptures, we can see the Most High demonstrating a passive aggressive nature, still pushing, the point of moving in righteousness in a righteous direction.
You got an example?
Yeah. I mean, when the Most High say, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. But, like we understand the stipulations of not keeping his commandments, because if you don't, like we read in Deuteronomy, and these are the curses that are coming upon you. So it's like it's giving you, it's a passive aggressive attribute, but it's also giving you a choice, to decide what you want to do. Because if you go the other way, the repercussions. But if you go the righteous way, you also know the repercussions and the blessings behind that.
Okay, well, but that wouldn't be a good example, only because there's a law that he gives. Either you do it and you receive the benefits, or you don't, and then there's a curse that comes with it. In other words, it's a law. So if I come to your house and you say, hey, this is all my house, and I don't do it, that doesn't make that law passive aggressive because I didn't do what you say do. So now you give me repercussions because of it, and I'm gonna say, oh, you're being passive aggressive. No, I violated your law. So the law, for an example, if you love me, keep my commandments, it's just the law. That's how he gauges to see if you love him or not. And if you show that, fine. But then he said he chastises who he loves. So if you violate it, he's still showing you love, but he's giving you some chastisement or punishment because he wants you to stay on track. Versus him being passive aggressive towards you. Well, not specifically you, but in general.
I understand, Moreh, and you're making my point valid. On a level of people comprehending and getting that full understanding. Is being passive aggressive negative, or is it positive, or can it be used in a positive light? still getting, the right outcome of a situation. That's all I want to know. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Shemaya, you had something?
Yes. Passive aggressive. Well, I know it is passive aggressive, but just to respond to the question, am I being passive aggressive if I ask loaded questions or ask leading questions? So I would say yes, that's being passive aggressive.
Did we say?
Did you hear me?
Yeah. I
You
heard
said
you.
if it's loaded.
Yeah, loaded questions or leading questions.
Say it again.
Hold on. Get them.
I gotta do my mic. That's what I'm saying. If it's a loaded question, then the person, that you're trying to trip them up.
Oh, like the Pharisees did the Mashiach?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a lot of passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's passive aggressive for real.
Rabbi, what are the commandments?
Mhm. Yes, that is definitely passive aggressive. Yes. Oh yeah. Especially you trying to find some fault in them. Do I keep score and make
Nah,
certain? Oh, okay. Hold on now, Mano. Do I keep score and make certain that slights and snubs are kept even? For example, sister and so did not invite me to her last dinner, so I sent my party invitations to everyone I knew but her.
I thought you were talking about playing the dozens.
Look. If that's not a passive aggressive trait, what other trait would that be? Would that be open?
Yeah.
That example, they do know why they didn't get their invitation. But it's also context, right? Yeah. Mhm. What Curly and Mo doing back here? What y'all talking about? We got a lesson going on. What's going on?
All right. So what I was saying is not necessarily this example, right? Because I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't care about that. But just the keeping score and things. Let's say somebody's very sarcastic with me, like Ima used the example of her job. At my job, people are very sarcastic on the phone for no reason. Now, I can't be openly aggressive because I'll get fired. But sometimes I just gotta, it's just bothering because I'm like, I know this person didn't just really talk to me like this. And so I'll say something back that I know I can get away with on the phone. But I do it in such a way that it's not really, it's passive because it's, by definition, but it's very open because I actually want the person to know that if it wasn't for the fact that this line is being recorded, I would have said something else. So I'm not perfect, but I'm being honest. I got some work to do on this one.
And then you still teetering on passive and open.
Yeah.
Because it'll be passive because of the sarcasm and be open because of the directness that you're doing. Go ahead, Nanamana. You had something to say?
Ken Moreh, I was wondering, because I was thinking about what Moreh Daoud was asking in reference to if the Most High was being passive aggressive in certain things that he do. So my question is, wasn't the Most High being a passive aggressive when he was leading the people or the Israelites when they were in the wilderness for 40 years, when they were just being disobedient and complaining about everything and anything and how he just simply wanted to destroy them?
Well, how would that be passive aggression though?
Because Moses was like saying, no, you don't want to destroy your people. These are your people. And then he would calm them down. But then the script, as we continue to read on, Moses would say, your people are doing this and your people are doing that.
Right, but you're saying Moses, but he's specifically saying, are you asking is Yahuah being passive aggressive? If that's your question, then no, he's not being passive aggressive. He let them know because of their unbelief, as it says in the book of Hebrews, is why they couldn't make it in. So he's gonna allow them to die out you know, he's just not gonna zap them all, you're dead, let's go to the next group. He allowed them to walk it all the way out and they died. And then the next generation is going in. But so he was showing technically patience, long
He's
suffering,
showing mercy.
chesed, you know, things like that.
Mhm.
Okay. Toda Moreh.
Number 7. Do I hide behind vague comments on social media geared toward embarrassing, shaming, or exposing someone who I have not addressed face to face? Example, Moreh Ben Yashrael posts on Facebook. Some people need to learn that biblical scholarship is more than just watching videos online. Hmm? Does that exude some passive aggression?
It could be if it's a subtweet. If he's talking about someone, like okay, so the example of this would possibly be like, let's say he had a conversation with someone, and someone says, "Oh, I watched this video, I watched that video," da da da. Instead of like actually picking up a book and reading it, this, that, and the other. So he could have a conversation with someone, and they still not get it, and then his next post literally says, "Some people need to learn that biblical scholarship is more than just watching videos online." That person knows who they're talking about, but other people don't know who they're talking about.
Keyboard warrior, right? That's sarcasm. So that would be passive aggressive. Right? Criticizing. You're criticizing and you're being sarcastic. And you put it on Front Street. Mhm. All right. I want you to go over these on your own time, all right? Apply them to your life where needed and adjust. You study all day and still don't know nothing? Somebody had a question? Go ahead.
Akikanah. So my question is how to avoid passive aggressive individuals.
How to avoid a passive aggressive? Would you really need to avoid them most of the time? It has to be in what context would you need to avoid them? You don't know? Yeah. All right.
Okay, I just wait till the lesson over with.
Okay. Somebody online has something to say?
Sika Moreh, I have a question. These types of aggressions come with anger, correct?
Sometimes, yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
So, or they come with negative feelings, or and they produce like fear, and they produce the other ones like open aggression and then asserted anger, correct? Okay, so these types, it all begins with anger, and then it can manifest to something else.
Anger is a trait of it, remember? Think about all the other lessons. Well, think about the definitions that you went through: strife and jealousy and pride. Those are the things that stir up this stuff. Anger is a result of that. And as a result of that anger, you can become passive aggressive, you can become open or assertive.
And this also produces fear. Okay.
Fear can mask the anger. But it wasn't just anger. Remember, it was being anxious. Or
Right,
being
right.
insecure,
Yeah,
things
it's
of
under
that nature.
Okay.
Remember the story about Ahab? Remember, it was a trickle down effect. All that stuff compiled into one, right? So one thing comes right after the other. That's what we're trying to demonstrate in these lessons. That's why we started with your foundation. If you don't have a good foundation from the get-go, you're opening up yourself for all these other things that are eventually going to trickle down into something else.
Okay. Toda Moreh.
Anyone else? Need the mic. There you go. No, he got it.
If you're trying to settle a dispute or disagreement, both sides are talking, one person is expressing their hurt, but then the other party is saying, okay, they're not saying anything back, say they don't know what to say, or they know that they're not able to speak in a way that may be productive, so they may just keep silent. because they don't want to say anything to hurt the other person, but they want to make it right. So is that passive aggressive if someone's saying something to you and you just say, okay?
You just answer a question.
Yeah, that's what
No, no. If you have a want to work things out, but you just don't know how to express it, that's not being passive aggressive. It's just something that you just need to work out. Go ahead.
What if someone brings some type of fault to you and you know you're wrong, but you don't really acknowledge that person and you kind of like look away or you look down and they want to talk about it and you decide that it's not a good time for you to talk about it, but you're just embarrassed about it.
You want to avoid them for the sake of disagreement.
Yeah, you remember, yeah, because I was gonna say the other part when they were talking, when Ak was just sharing, he answered his own question.
Mm-hmm.
The other portion is sometimes, you people say, you always right, I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
See that? Okay, you're right. You always want to be right. That's passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Or like they like to deflect because they don't want to deal with the actual situation. So the easy way for them, okay, yeah, you're right. You just always want to be right. I'm wrong.
Remember the first time we did passive aggressive, we explained that they like to be in control to a certain point too. They want to take over that conversation. That helps them get away from what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So now they got control of the conversation. So we're gonna get away with what you got to say, right?
Okay, so you have, it looks like 3 or 4 on YouTube.
Go ahead.
The first, is it a passive aggressive trait for me to, well, actually, no, we read that already. Is it considered passive aggressive if you're tired of arguing with someone that just doesn't respond because you don't have anything nice to say in an effort to keep peace?
Kind of, because you're avoiding them for the sake of the argument. So in kind of a way, yeah. But I guess I would need more context to that though.
So what about in 1 Kings 22 when Yah calls for one of the spirits to go out to be a deceiving spirit? Does that fall in passive aggression?
Mm-mm. That was you who were given a order. That's not passive aggression.
Shlika, in addressing this question here, to give a real time example, sometimes it happens between husband and wives. A disagreement will come about, and both parties get quiet. It's like, it's not like the disagreement is solved. The quietness is a standoff to either party is trying to get one to move in the direction they want them to move into. Thus, the quietness is avoiding, the issue. That could be a real time example with, the quietness, and to avoid, the issue. And that could come off as passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's definitely passive aggressive.
I mean, it's still going to be passive aggressive because again, you're doing something to avoid conflict. You're avoiding the situation. So that is passive aggressive. Go ahead, we got one more.
Okay. And then also online it says, I have a friend who won't give up a drug. Is it passive aggression to continue to speak how I overcame certain things, knowing it will likely be received with annoyance instead of consideration?
Mm-mm. Because here's the thing with the question. We're talking about you. We're not talking about the other person, right? So if you're trying to help someone or better them, I guess why would that be passive aggressive?
And Shemaya has her hand up.
Go ahead.
Okay, question, just if this is passive aggressive, if you're talking to someone and you're having a conversation, that person speaks and then you speak and that person tells you that what you say is irrelevant and continues speaking. Or if words that you say when you're speaking are repeated over and over again with no real reason for it being repeated other than being repeated over and over again. Is that passive aggressive?
No. Yeah, that's something directive. Yeah. They're coming at you a direct way. That being passive aggressive is you want to move away from what's going on. You know, you want to move away from the situation. So you're going to go through any means necessary to get away from it, whether it be being sarcastic, whether it be you trying to avoid them altogether. You know, that's what it means to be passive aggressive. You're trying to stop what's going on, not keep it going. So if someone's going to come at you and start and be annoying, that's not passive aggressive right there. That sounds like open right there. They want you to keep this going. So they're being direct with you.
Mhm.
All right. Anyone else? All right. We didn't. Oh, you got one question?
Slick, I'm Moreh.
Hold on 1 second. Moreh, though.
So as you continue to explain passive aggressiveness, remind you, Aki, this is my first time actually hearing this word.
Mhm.
I'm thinking different characteristics of what's not. So passive aggressive, I can do that all day if I'm trying to avoid somebody, right? If I'm trying to like disagree with somebody, I could be passive aggressive.
Well, in the heat of the disagreement, you're trying to avoid it. You're not actually going full board with the actual disagreement. You're trying to get away from that disagreement. When you want to keep the disagreement going, you're being open with it. That's open aggression. Passive aggression is moving away. You're getting away from the situation, not going to it. Go ahead, Lamadyahu.
I just want to say this before we close out. And, I appreciate this lesson. And I pray that everybody take this lesson to take the time to self-reflect on themselves, because one of the main attributes of the children of the Most High is our stubbornness and our stiff-neckedness. We don't like to be rebuked. We're very adamant about what we do. And this is why this passive aggressive nature it comes out the wrong way instead of it coming out the right way. So, this is just, I just pray, even for myself, I take away from this lesson to self-reflect and to work on the stubbornness, the stiff-neckedness. So, my light, so all of our lights can continue to shine and we can come together as the people of the Most High like we ought to. Amen.
Yeah. All right, my last little spiel. Passive aggressive speech and behavior are cowardly ways of avoiding conflict. By pretending to be pleasant while inwardly seething with resentment, we fool ourselves into thinking we are peacemakers practicing self-control. In truth, we are communicating contempt and disapproval without having the courage to openly say so. That's why I always say that in this walk and or in a relationship in this walk, communication is very, very important. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, understand, none of us hopefully will ever go to the extreme that we've read about today, right? These examples are just showing how things can get so bad and create such an evil inside of us, right? If you can't be truthful with yourself, do you really expect to be truthful with the Father? Not knowing how to regulate our emotions can lead to all sort of bad things spiritually, emotionally, which in turn can manifest physically, mentally, and even financially. Now, quick question: Did any of these people we talk about today put the Father first? Was the Father their first thought in their decision-making process? I think I said this in my very first lesson. The Father needs to be in the center of everything you do and say, right? Everything. Now, He is your check and balance, right? You can't do this on your own. Basing your decision off of your own judgment can and most likely will lead to disaster. Questions, comments pertaining to the lesson?
I just want to say Toda Moreh for this lesson, and you explained a lot, and it's a lot that I'm personally going to reflect also in myself, and I want to give esteem to Abba Yahuah for giving you all the wisdom to help us in this walk. So Baruch Hashem Yahuah.
Hallelujah. Keep in mind, we ain't done yet, y'all. We got 3 more lessons now. This will not, just no more homework. I'll let y'all off without the homework this time. All right. All right. If all hearts and minds are clear, have Sherrod will close us on out.